Welcome back to my channel, guys. I'm going to be starting a mini college series while I am on winter break because during the school year YouTube just doesn't work. So I'm going to try to rapid fire through these, and I'm just going to go through a list of everything that I wish I knew before college just to have a little bit more insight and hopefully to just help you guys when you are going to college. Let's get into it. The first thing is communal showers. I don't like the communal showers that we have at our school. The dorm that I'm in currently is fine, but the first year, my freshman year, we had one curtain and that was it. There wasn't like an area where you could like change. So you're basically in the shower trying to take off all your clothes and then like put them on the floor, and then you have like your shower caddy and you're trying to grab all your stuff from your shower caddy. When you turn on the water, it's immediately freezing because the shower is so small that the water just hits every part of you. The only communal showers that I've ever used had like two curtains so that one you could change behind while like your shower is like heating up, and then the other curtain was for the shower itself. So I was just not used to that. You get used to it. The next one, if you're a guy, please skip to the next section of this because this one's a little bit TMI. But periods are the worst when you're in college. I use a menstrual cup. Obviously, you can't just like throw that in the trash can, like you have to clean it. So literally every time I was on my period, I would have to wait until the bathroom was completely cleared out, and then I would just go and like wash it really quickly and try to like hide it as best as I could. But yeah, it was not fun. I also changed it a lot when I was just in the shower because that was the easiest thing. And I found things that worked for me. On the floor that I live currently, we have a one-person bathroom, so I just do it in there and it makes my life a whole lot easier. I did resort to using other methods a lot of the time. It was not ideal. The next thing, for some reason, that was a big problem for me was forgetting things every time I went to the bathroom. I would forget my toothbrush, or I would forget my face wash, or I would forget a towel. And I'm not a forgetful person, so I don't know what was happening, but I always had to keep running back and forth between my room and the bathroom. Luckily, my bedroom was right on the like it was directly across from the bathroom, but it was just a hassle going back and forth because I never had everything that I needed. The next one is that the adjustment to college is honestly not that bad. I was expecting it to be way worse than it was. The first few days, there are so many events that you can't even be homesick. And you're just so excited to be around so many different people, and it was not an issue for me. I actually got the most sad around like the beginning of November. That's when I started feeling really lonely, but the first few weeks, you'll be fine. I didn't realize how much prep work there was going to be before classes in college. I literally had to sit and like watch a ton of lectures before classes and do a bunch of readings, and I was just not expecting to like do a bunch of prep work because I just wasn't used to that with high school and middle school, I guess. The next one is if you get an email saying that they changed something about your class schedule, make sure that you look at every single detail to make sure that nothing has changed, because I got an email saying that they changed my schedule and I looked at my schedule and it looked the exact same, so I was like, I don't even know what they're talking about. And then on the first day of classes, I went to one of my classrooms, and it was the wrong classroom because they changed the room that the class was going to be in. And I was late to my first class. So that was fun. So just make sure that you double check and print out your schedule like the day before classes just to make sure that you have everything correct. The next thing is I would recommend skimming through your textbooks before you have class, because then it gives you a general idea of what you'll be learning, and it's not all going to be new when you get to class. This helped me a lot just to like retain information, and it wasn't like I was learning all of this stuff at once. And you don't have to read like word for word, like that would just take way too much time, but just skimming through to kind of get a general idea of what you'll be talking about. My school offers free tutoring services, and so I definitely 100% recommend go to tutors and go to your professors as much as you need to. I feel like I was nervous to go to them at first, but honestly, you're paying so much money to go to school, and that's their job, is to help you, so use your resources. The next one is you are going to have a lot more time than you think. It's just what you choose to do with your time that really matters. So I was super stressed about time management. I was like, oh my gosh, I am just not gonna have any time to do anything. But if you think about it, in college, most of the time you're taking less courses than you were in high school, so you have more free time. The difference is that a lot of your free time is going to be spent studying. The next one is you will definitely forget some things at home. I had a whole list of everything, and I looked up so many YouTube videos about what exactly I needed to pack, and I still forgot stuff at home. So don't worry about if you forget stuff. There's probably gonna be grocery stores or like stores around your area, so if you forget something, you can just pick it up and buy it. Or if you live close to home, you can get it like picked up from your house or whatever it is. But don't panic if you forget something. It's bound to happen. The next thing I learned is that you will adjust and figure out where you like to do certain things. So like you'll figure out where you like to study, you'll figure out where you like to relax. Like for me, when I really need to get stuff done, I have to go to the quiet section of the library or else I'm not gonna get anything done. When I'm doing like assignments that take like a few minutes, then I'll go to like the lounge area just because there will be noise there, but it's not like I have to like sit and focus. And then I choose to only read my Bible and also relax in my bedroom. Those are like the only two things that I do in there because that is like my wind down and relaxation time, and I like to have that separate from my studying. The next one is to implement the study tips that you used in high school. I thought like, oh my gosh, I'm going to college and it's just so different with studying. For some reason, I just thought that like you had to change everything you did from high school. If you have solid study habits from high school, stick to them. There's no need to change anything from high school to college. The next one is go to the gym during dining hours. A lot of people will be eating and sports teams will not be in there because they're going to need to eat in between practice. There will be a lot less people at the gym during dining hours. The next thing that I wish I knew originally was to do practice problems in the textbook if I was reading through it, because that just helped me to see if I was actually learning something. And it's one thing to just read the textbook and it's another to actually do practice problems because then you're actually applying the knowledge. So definitely recommend doing that. I personally loved being on the second floor of my dorm. So I would request being on the second floor because it's only one flight of stairs, so you can go to the kitchen or do your laundry in one flight of stairs. I also feel like it's always the perfect temperature on the second floor. Like it's not too cold by the doors on the first floor, but it's also not too hot where like all the heat is rising up to the third floor. The next one is that you do not have to participate in freshman 15. When I first went to college, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to gain 15 pounds because it's just a thing where like you go to college and you gain weight. That's just something you see across every student body. I think I know why. There are so many events within the first few weeks of classes, and all of them are going to have food. You don't have to eat food every time there's an event with food. The next one is that 8 a.m. classes are not that bad if you get enough sleep. If you have an 8 a.m., go to bed at 10:30. Someone is like driving down my driveway right now. I don't think that people dread 8 a.m.s because it's at 8 a.m. I just don't think they get enough sleep. The next one is try to schedule your classes back to back. I personally hated when I had like an hour block of time in between classes because I was like, well, I don't have enough time to start an assignment because it's going to take me over 40 minutes to do this assignment, and then I'm going to have to just go back to class. So it was honestly, it's always just like a waste of time to like have blocks in between my classes. Sometimes you can't help it and it's just going to be like that, but if you can avoid it, try scheduling your classes back to back. Personally, since I'm a morning person, I loved having all of my classes in the morning, and so I try to schedule all of my classes in the morning because I usually hit a crash around like 2 o'clock and I just don't feel like doing any work anymore. I still do, but I'm not as motivated to do work. So if I have all my classes in the morning, I'm more attentive. Is that the word for it? I am more focused and able to learn in the morning. The next one is do not buy a ton of food to bring to your dorm. Most of the stuff that I brought from home that I thought I was gonna eat, I didn't end up eating, and that literally happened this year too. And there's gonna be grocery stores around the area, most likely. I mean, around my school there is. You're gonna have plenty of time to go to the grocery store and get stuff if you need it. For some reason, I was also worried when I went to college that I wouldn't have anywhere to throw my trash. So I was thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna need this big trash can, and then I'm gonna have to lug this big thing to like a dumpster or something. But there are, for me personally, we had trash cans in our dorm, and so we just put our personal trash in there and then they would take it out to the dumpsters. So I wouldn't stress about getting like a huge trash can. The next one is your work will pick up after 1 to 2 weeks, especially with quizzes and exams. So just be prepared that the first couple weeks will be a breeze and you'll be like, oh, this is easy, and then it's gonna pick up. The first 2 weeks are usually like organization and review, but then once you get past that, it's like, all right, now it's game time. The next one is get an earlier time for move-in. I moved in one of the later times and I felt super rushed, and I feel like I did not have enough time because once the events start, you are just going. So I would recommend just trying to get an early time so that you can unpack and get everything out and ready. Make sure that you ask upperclassmen about the meal plans and how many swipes that you get per day. The first semester, I had a meal plan that was 3 meals a day, and I barely got through my meal swipes and I wasted a ton of money. So just be mindful of that, ask people about it, and yeah, because like I bought breakfast and I didn't have time to eat breakfast in the dining hall every day, so I was only using 2, and yeah, it was just a waste of money. The next thing is that the anticipation of college is worse than anything. It's not going to be as bad as you think. And I feel like just leading up to it, I was just so nervous, and the anticipation of just my whole life flipping 180 just was a lot and very overwhelming. But now that I'm in college, I was like, I wish I wouldn't have worried like I did. The next one is that AP classes and studying in high school really prepared me for college. I did not realize it, but I took AP English, and that really set me up to do well on essays. And then I also took AP Bio and AP Physics, and I had to take those classes last year and this year. It was so helpful. And the classes that I didn't take AP classes for, like Chem, I struggled more in. And there's just a trend that like when you take AP classes in high school, you're going to do better in them in college. The next one is having your classes start at the same time every day. I loved waking up at the same time every day, just having that routine. If you are someone that operates well on a schedule, having your classes start at the same time every day is essential. Another thing that I didn't realize is a lot of exams in college, you're not gonna have time to check your work. I would say about it's 50-50, so like 50% of the time I wasn't able to check my work after the fact because there just wasn't enough time. And then 50% of the time I was able to go back, so it kind of just depends on the class. The next one, I want to scream this from the rooftops. You do not need an iPad to do well in college. I thought that every college student had an iPad and that you just needed one to be successful in college. That's not true. I'm a paper pencil girl, and we get free prints from my school, so I literally print out all of my lectures and just write directly on them during class. And it's basically the same exact thing as having an iPad, so just don't worry about it. The next one is start studying in groups ASAP. What I like to do is study on my own, and then the day or two before the exam, I get together with my study group and we talk about things. We go over what the professor said was going to be on the exam, and that just kind of like solidifies the information. But getting your solid study group together from the beginning is going to be key. I did not have a solid study group for my first few exams, but then once I had my study group, it was like, this is awesome, and it just helps so much. The next one is work hard for your grades at the beginning of the semester so that if something happens down the road, or like you bomb an exam or something, you'll have some wiggle room with that. Because you're never expecting a hard exam and then you get to it and you're like, oh my gosh, this could destroy my grade. But if you have already prepared to do well from the beginning of the semester and you have a little bit of a buffer, then it's not going to affect your GPA as much. The next thing is to plan your courses before registration so that you have an earlier registration time. The way they do it at my school is that planning your courses is opened 2 weeks before registration is due. And so that was just super helpful when I was able to plan stuff ahead of time, and I was able to get an earlier registration time because I had planned so early. The next thing I recommend is having one of everything at home and at school so you don't have to keep taking things back and forth. I travel home pretty frequently, at least once a month. And so having like one hairbrush here, one toothbrush, a pack of shampoo and conditioner, it just helps so that I don't have to bring that stuff back and forth every single time that I travel. The next one is the last 3 weeks of the semester are always the worst, especially in the fall, because it's like you go home for a week for Thanksgiving break and then you come back and you have 2 weeks of classes and then a week of finals, and it's just like cramming everything into those 3 weeks is just super overwhelming. The next thing I would recommend is planning a balanced schedule, so not having like all of your classes in one day and then no classes another day. I personally liked having a balance of each, because if you have 5 classes on one day and it just so happens that 3 of those classes have an exam on the same day, then that's going to be kind of frustrating. The next one is don't buy a lot of food towards the end of the semester, because they are going to make you take everything out, because you're not going to be there for the summer, but then also for winter break you're not going to be there for a month, so they just make you take everything home. And if you buy a bunch of food, then you're just going to have a ton of food that you're going to have to bring home. The next one is kind of silly, but store your plates and your bowls upside down, because there is going to be dust, and it was very hard to dust my room because there were so many things on the shelves and such little space that you have to organize all of your stuff. And so there would be dust in the room, and when my bowls were flipped up, every time that I went to like eat cereal or something, I would have to like clean out the bowl because it had dust in it. And so flipping them upside down just saves some time with that. The next thing is, when you feel overwhelmed and stressed about your assignments or your homework, the best advice that I can give you is to just do it. Because sitting there and thinking about everything that you have to do and stressing over it is not going to do anything but make you more stressed about it, and you're just wasting time by not doing it. So if you're stressed about doing something, just start it. Another study tip that I have is studying for 25 minutes and then taking a 5-minute break and continuing that cycle. That's actually scientifically proven to help you retain information. Or if you have like an essay that you're working on or something that you want like a longer extended period of time, studying for like 50 minutes and then taking a 10-minute break. So whether that is like going and getting a snack or using the bathroom or going to get a drink of water or watching a YouTube video, whatever that break is, just giving your mind a little bit of a break in between studying to help you retain that information. I've realized that college is a lot more about the detailed things. So I feel like high school is more the overview of everything that you should know. But there are so many little details that you'll learn in your classes that you're going to have to know for exams, and just be aware of that and pay attention to the details. The harder you study during the semester, the easier finals will be. I can't tell you, it is so cool. You'll get to finals and you'll look back on the year and you'll be studying and looking through things and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I remember like all of this. And so it just makes it easier when finals come around if you study and work hard throughout the semester, so that it just comes back to you during finals. I loved listening to classical music while studying. It drowned out all the noise and it was just very relaxing. I can't listen to lo-fi beats because I just get too into it. Another thing related to tests is that the amount of effort you put into your assignments throughout the semester will also prepare you for exams and for finals. Your assignments and your homework, they are going to be great study tools for your exams. There was a lot of things going into college that I was nervous about, such as like what the room would look like, what the showers looked like, how big the trash can was going to be. And I feel like those were just like such little things that when I got there, I was like, oh, like, I don't need to worry about that. Like, I tried so hard to be like, how much stuff should I bring to college? Because I don't know how big my room is going to be. But you really just don't know until you get there. So there's no point of just stressing about it. Just pack as much as you think. And then, I don't know. I didn't end up bringing too much clothes. Everything was like perfect. I could have literally fit all of my clothes in the closet if I really wanted to. The next one, which is kind of weird, is that I didn't know that in college you can't use graphing calculators in science classes. So I literally only brought a graphing calculator to school, and I wasn't even able to use it. So definitely buy like a regular calculator that isn't graphing. This next one, I'm kind of like on the fence about where I stand with it, but I had written down like, if you had taken a foreign language in high school, take a different one in college. But I don't know, because my first semester of Spanish was very difficult. Like, I probably cried like once a week because of that class, because college languages are just so much harder. And so I really struggled with that. But my second semester of Spanish was really good because I had a really good professor. And she like was willing to have grace and like teach us how to speak Spanish. But at the same time, I know people that started in 101 for a different language and they were also like struggling and having hard times. I don't know. I just think college languages are very difficult. But I think the hard part for me was that I tested into 102 instead of 101 for Spanish, so they expected us to know stuff, and the professor was also new, so she like didn't really know how to teach Spanish. So I think that was just a whole great gift and package. The next one is, even if you schedule to have certain professors, sometimes your schedule is going to get changed. There were certain circumstances where I wanted a certain professor and then something ended up happening and then I needed to change my course, and so I ended up with a professor that I like didn't necessarily know. Don't be surprised if that happens, but also it is important to pick your classes based on like the professor if you think that they're better or something, but at the same time, it may change. The next one is kind of try to balance your overall schedule. So don't do laundry on a day where you have 5 classes and need to work out and have practice. Like, do laundry on a day where you don't have as much, work out on days when you don't have as many classes. Just kind of balance out your schedule so that you're not super overwhelmed on one day and then have nothing to do on the next. The next thing I recommend is to print out all of your syllabi on the first week of class or the first day or whatever, and then write down every single quiz and exam date in a planner. That helped me so much to stay organized and just know when things were happening, and also like when I had 2 exams for 1 week or whatever. I didn't really do that with assignments because assignments are kind of just easier and you can just fit them in wherever they go. The next one is write assignments in your planner on the day where you realistically think you're going to be able to get it done, because often I would just write everything on the same day that I had to get done and I would just get super overwhelmed. But if I wrote like 4 things on each day, I was typically able to get everything done that I wanted to do, and then you just feel more accomplished and more successful, and it just makes it easier and it's better for time management, and then you don't get overwhelmed. The next one is try to not schedule more than 4 courses in a day. Personally for me, I just think that 4 courses is a good balance to have per day. Some days you're only gonna have 1. Like next semester I couldn't really control that. I have 5 classes on Wednesday, and you know, it is what it is, but it's definitely a lot easier when you have your classes balanced out throughout the week. The first week of classes is always the worst. So it's always like the first week of classes and then the last 3 weeks of classes. So for me, I'm a very like organized and put together person. And so first of all, going from summer directly into school, just my schedule for the first week, I'm just trying to adapt to it, and that's always hard. But then also, you're just trying to get your life organized the first week and kind of just get down a schedule, or like when you're gonna eat, when you're gonna work out, when you're gonna do your homework, when you have clubs, and it's just a lot. And so the first week was always really, really difficult and challenging for me, but after that it gets better and you're used to it, and then you start getting into a schedule. The next one is take dual enrollment and AP credits for general education classes and not major classes. So many people that I know took classes that were specifically for their major and they didn't transfer because the school needed them to take a specific course. So I personally took statistics, psychology, and sociology at my community college during dual enrollment, and all of those credits came over. I did take a world history AP course and I got a 5 on the exam, but they did not take that for anything. If you are set on what school you're going to go to, I would also just contact them ahead of time and say like, hey, if I take this course, will it transfer over? Just to get an idea of what classes you should take. The first week after a break is always kind of rough. So especially for me, I'm an only child, so I'm very connected and attached to my parents, and then I have a boyfriend that's here as well. And so when I'm home for a week for break and then I have to go back to school, I'm just always really sad the next week and really just unmotivated to do anything. So if that is kind of like your situation, then going back to school after a break is probably not going to be fun for you. Email your teachers before buying textbooks. A lot of the time they'll say on their website, like, or their syllabi, this textbook is required. But then when I emailed a bunch of my teachers before class, they were like, oh, I have a PDF, or like I have a link that you can use. And also there's a lot of libraries that will lend you textbooks through your school if you just ask them to do that. Wait until like the first week of classes to see if you actually need the textbook, and then if you don't, then just don't buy it, because there's been so many times where I've bought textbooks and I used it once and then I'm like, okay, so this was just a waste of my money. The next one is don't get a room too close to doors. We currently have a room that's right next to one of the main doors, and it is so loud, and every time someone walks into it, we can just hear it, and I have to wear earplugs at night because there's just so much noise. Yeah, so I don't recommend that. I personally love having a room that's right next to the bathroom because it's just so easy to just go into it. But at the same time, like my roommate, she says that she can literally hear people like peeing, and she just hates that. So we got a room that was farther away from the bathroom this year, and I mean, it hasn't been bad. It's just easier when you're like wrapped in your robe to just go like from the bathroom straight to your room. So another thing related to textbooks is look up if there's a PDF or a link online before you buy a textbook. I bought a physics textbook this year that was like $75. Come to find out, there was a PDF online, and I personally love just looking up textbooks on my computer, and I didn't even end up using the book that I bought. So definitely look that up. That is all that I have for you guys. That was a lot. I tried to make that as quick as possible, but I'm sorry if this video is long. Thank you guys so much for watching. Some videos to look out for. I'm going to be doing things to look for in schools, things to look for in a roommate, and then the ultimate college packing list that I use. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next video.